The first national budget speech of the Cyril Ramaphosa era is set to be delivered in Parliament on Wednesday, this being only 5 days after the State of the Nation address and only 6 days after Cyril Ramaphosa was sworn in as the President of the Republic of South Africa. South Africans were left on a high after the State of the Nation address. We were feeling inspired. The national budget speech on Wednesday might just bring us down to earth just a little bit. For the budget speech is where it all happens. It's where we have to realistically look at tax hikes, plans for government debt, loans for state-owned enterprises, and paying for free education. The national budget speech is where it affects our pockets. With us in studio, we have George Herman, who is the CIO and Director of Citadel. Welcome, George.
Thank you, Mushfiqah. Brilliant introduction. And as you quite rightly say, it is show me the money.
Show me the money. It is about the money. And the thing about this budget speech, taking everything aside, leaving the political sphere, looking at what South Africa needs money. Where are we going to find that revenue? Where is the finance minister going to find that revenue? We speak of tax hikes. We then speak of personal tax. We speak of VAT. Expand on that a little bit. What does it mean to the ordinary man in the street?
I'd like to expand on the nitty-gritty, but before we do that, we also need to show fiscal discipline, because the rating agencies will be watching the developments in the budget very, very closely. So the minister has this fine balance between an austerity budget that pleases the investment world, but also a budget that distributes the money to all the places that is necessary as per all the initiatives that the president announced. So in terms of you ask where he's going to get the money, well, the biggest lever he can pull is unfortunately on VAT. So we'll have to see whether he has the inclination to increase VAT.
And VAT is sometimes seen as a regressive tax, which affects the poor most. How would we deal with that?
Well, they could increase VAT and then increase the basket of goods which are zero rated, and in so doing alleviate the effect on the lower income groups. We think that that would be a very effective way of increasing wide net of tax.
Personal income tax, how is that going to be affected?
Unfortunately, I think that cow has been milked dry, so they can't increase headline rates of personal tax anymore. But by not neutralizing bracket creep, they are in fact increasing the effective tax rate. And so I don't see any relief on bracket creep this year.
Something that's also come up is the sugar tax. It's being touted that the sugar tax can raise 11 billion rand in revenue. Is that realistic? Is that figure of 11 billion rand being raised by sugar tax realistic?
No, definitely not. It's overly optimistic. The demand for those type of products are super elastic. Demand patterns will change. At best, we think that's a 1 to 2 billion rand exercise. If they're very fortunate, 5 billion, but that'll change very quickly. So no, 11 billion is not practical.
Medical insurance tax credits are also set to be removed, and the savings from that to be used for the national health insurance. Again, how realistic is that? How is that going to be implemented, and will it really bring relief?
I think it's very realistic. In a sense, it's a form of a wealth tax. By cancelling that, it's a higher tax burden on the wealthy that already has medical benefits. And so that is very realistic that is happened. And yes, the savings from that is material. And so I think there's a high likelihood of that happening, yes.
Okay, so we're looking at getting money in. We've also got to stop spending money. Where are we looking at those cuts? Where else can government get the much needed funds from?
That is the tough side, as you know, always. To spend less is the toughest part of everything. And unfortunately, the two things which is the minister's biggest expenditure lines is interest on debt. Now, he doesn't have a lot of control over that. Fortunately, interest rates have come lower on the back of the positive sentiment in the country and the positive reception we've had in the financial markets due to the new president. And so at least that line is a little bit under control if they can keep the amount of debt under control, which it seems like they do. So the next big expenditure line is the public sector wage bill. And that is a tough animal. It has become the elephant in the room. It has become so big, but it was heartening that the president actually addressed that in his SONA speech. And so we're looking for a time period where the public sector wage bill must be reduced.
If we're looking at in terms of it being an easy or a tough budget, it seems that it is going to be a tough budget for South Africans to eventually consume. How do you think the ratings agency is going to react to this?
This is a very, very close call this time, and as you say, it is tough. It's tough on everybody. It must have been tough on the National Treasury. It's going to be tough on the minister to placate everybody. Very tough for the president to sell his whole story about a positive South African story, but then immediately tax people heavily. So it's a tough balance. But that discipline is required for the rating agencies. As we stand today, they are giving the new president the benefit of the doubt. And if the Minister of Finance delivers a credible picture and exudes the picture that there's discipline in the fiscal matters, there's a good chance that the ratings agency, and especially Moody's is the one we're focusing on, might give us a stay of execution.
Thank you so much, George. We really do hope for the best with the 2018 National Budget Speech, but we'll keep in touch.
Thank you.